In a small hospital room in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on January 12, 1964, a teenage mother named Jacqueline Guys held her newborn son. She was just 17 years old, still a high school student with dreams bigger than her circumstances. The baby's father, Ted Jorgensen, was 19 and owned a bicycle shop. Their marriage was fragile, held together by hope, but strained by the weight of responsibility neither was ready to carry. By the time little Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen celebrated his first birthday, his parents' marriage had crumbled. Jacqueline found herself alone, raising an infant while trying to finish her education. But she was determined. She completed high school and pursued a teaching degree, juggling motherhood with her studies. Her perseverance would become a defining lesson for her son, that obstacles are merely chapters in a longer story, not the ending. When Jeffrey was 4 years old, everything changed again. His mother met Miguel Mike Bezos, a Cuban immigrant with a remarkable story of his own. At 16, Mike had fled Cuba alone, arriving in America with nothing but a jacket his mother had hand-stitched from cleaning rags and an unshakable belief in the American dream. He worked odd jobs, learned English, and put himself through the University of New Mexico, eventually becoming an engineer. Mike saw something special in young Jeffrey and in his mother. When he married Jacqueline, he didn't just accept her son, he adopted him, giving the boy his surname. Jeffrey Jorgensen became Jeffrey Bezos, and with that new name came a new chapter filled with stability, encouragement, and boundless possibility. The Bezos family moved to Houston, Texas, where Mike took a job as an engineer with Exxon. They settled into a modest home, and it was here that young Jeff's natural curiosity began to flourish. From the moment he could walk, he was taking things apart to understand how they worked. As a toddler, he dismantled his own crib with a screwdriver, frustrated by the limitations it placed on his growing independence. His parents, rather than scolding him, marveled at his determination and problem-solving skills. Jeff's childhood summers were magical in their own right. He spent them at his maternal grandfather's ranch near Cotulla, Texas, a sprawling 25,000-acre property that would later expand to 300,000 acres. His grandfather, Lawrence Preston Guys, had been a regional director of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, a man who valued self-sufficiency, innovation, and hard work. Under the vast Texas sky, young Jeff learned to fix windmills, lay pipes, and tackle whatever challenges the ranch threw at him. Those summers taught him that with creativity and persistence, there was nothing he couldn't figure out. Back in Houston, Jeff's bedroom became a laboratory of wonder. He rigged an electric alarm to keep his younger siblings out, built an infinity cube from scratch when he couldn't afford to buy one, and constructed amateur robots from spare parts. His parents eventually had to relocate his experiments to the garage, the first of many garages that would play a pivotal role in his story. When Jeff was in middle school, the family moved to Miami, Florida. At Miami Palmetto High School, he excelled academically while working the breakfast shift at McDonald's, flipping burgers and observing the efficiency of systems and processes. Even then, he was thinking about how things could be improved, how customer service could be faster, how operations could be streamlined. He graduated as valedictorian, won a Silver Knight Award, and earned recognition as a National Merit Scholar. In his graduation speech, he spoke of a dream that seemed impossibly ambitious at the time. He wanted to build space hotels and help humanity colonize the stars. Jeff enrolled at Princeton University in 1982, initially planning to study physics. He wanted to follow in the footsteps of his hero, Stephen Hawking. But quantum mechanics proved more challenging than expected, and Jeff realized he needed to be exceptional, not just good, at whatever he pursued. He switched to electrical engineering and computer science, fields where his problem-solving abilities could truly shine. He graduated in 1986 summa cum laude, and as a member of Phi Beta Kappa, armed with skills that would soon be in high demand on Wall Street. The year 1986 marked the beginning of Jeff's professional journey. Multiple prestigious companies offered him positions, but he chose to join Fattel, a fintech startup building a network for international trade. It was the perfect training ground, a small, scrappy company where he could wear multiple hats and learn every aspect of the business. He quickly rose to become head of development and director of customer service. But when Fattel failed to gain traction after 2 years, Jeff moved on. His next stop was Bankers Trust, one of the most respected names in finance. There, he developed sophisticated software applications for managing pension funds worth over $250 billion. By age 26, he had become vice president, the youngest person to hold that title at the firm. But Jeff wasn't satisfied. He wanted more than a comfortable career at a prestigious bank. He wanted to be at the cutting edge of something revolutionary. In 1990, at age 26, Jeff joined D. Shaw & Company, a hedge fund that combined his two passions, advanced mathematics and computer science. The firm used quantitative analysis and algorithms to make investment decisions, and it was there that Jeff truly found his element. His boss, David Shaw, recognized Jeff's exceptional talent and entrepreneurial spirit. Within just 4 years, Jeff became senior vice president. Once again, the youngest person to reach that level in the company. Life at D. Shaw wasn't just about numbers and algorithms. It was there in the heart of Manhattan that Jeff met Mackenzie Tuttle, a research associate and Princeton graduate working at the firm. They began dating and married in 1993. Mackenzie would become not just his wife, but his partner in the greatest adventure of his life. It was while working at D. Shaw in the spring of 1994 that Jeff stumbled upon a statistic that would change everything. He read that web usage was growing at an astounding rate of 2,300% per year. The number hit him like lightning. Things just didn't grow that fast in the normal world. The internet was exploding, and Jeff saw an opportunity that very few others recognized. He began researching what products would be ideal to sell online, creating a list of 20 potential categories. He narrowed it down to 5: CDs, computer hardware, software, videos, and books. Books went out because they offered universal demand, low cost, and almost infinite catalog. Millions of titles that no physical bookstore could ever stock. Jeff went to David Shaw with his idea. He wanted to start an online bookstore. Shaw, who had grown fond of Jeff, asked him to take a weekend to think it over carefully. Jeff was walking away from a 7-figure salary, a senior vice president position, and a guaranteed 6-figure Christmas bonus. It was a kind of decision that could haunt someone forever if it went wrong. But Jeff created what he called his regret minimization framework. He imagined himself at 80 years old, looking back on his life. Would he regret leaving Wall Street? Probably not. Would he regret not trying to participate in this thing called the internet that was about to change the world? Absolutely. That's when he knew. On that Independence Day weekend in 1994, Jeff and Mackenzie loaded up a 1988 Chevy Blazer, a gift from Jeff's parents, and began the cross-country drive from New York to Seattle. Mackenzie drove while Jeff typed out a business plan on his laptop. They were heading west to chase a dream. Jeff chose Seattle strategically. It was close to major book distributors, home to Microsoft and a thriving tech community, and importantly, it was in a state with a smaller population, which meant he could delay. Collecting sales tax on purchases from larger states, a crucial competitive advantage in those early days. They rented a modest 3-bedroom house in Bellevue, Washington, and Jeff set up shop in the garage. He built desks by attaching legs to doors purchased from Home Depot for less than $60 each. It was in that garage, working around the clock, that Amazon.com was born. Jeff initially wanted to call the company Cadabra, like the magic word abracadabra, but when a lawyer misheard it as cadaver, he quickly pivoted. Flipping through a dictionary, he landed on Amazon, the world's largest river, symbolizing his ambition to build the world's largest bookstore. Plus, it started with A, which meant it would appear at the top of alphabetical lists. On July 5, 1994, Amazon was officially incorporated. It took another year of intense coding, testing, and preparation before the website went live on July 16, 1995. The first week, Amazon sold $12,000 worth of books. Orders came from all 50 states and 45 countries. Jeff was packing boxes himself, driving them to the post office, and dreaming of the day they could afford a forklift. The company was scrappy, understaffed, and operating on razor-thin margins, but it was growing. Jeff's parents, Mike and Jackie Bezos, believed in their son's vision so deeply that they invested $245,000 of their retirement savings into Amazon. Jeff warned them there was a 70% chance they'd never see a penny back. But they had faith. That investment would eventually be worth billions. In the early days, Jeff wasn't just a CEO, he was everything. He interviewed every employee personally, insisted on the highest standards, and created a culture obsessed with customer satisfaction. When Yahoo offered to feature Amazon on its site, Jeff and his tiny team debated whether they could handle the increased traffic. They decided to go for it. The exposure was massive, and orders flooded in from around the world. But growth required capital. Jeff pitched Amazon to 60 potential investors, and while some were skeptical that an online bookstore could compete with Barnes and Noble and Borders, 22 believed in the vision enough to invest $50,000 each. In exchange, Jeff gave up 20% of the company. It was a tough pill to swallow, but it provided the $1.1 million needed to scale operations. In 1997, Amazon went public with its initial public offering. The stock was priced at $9 per share, and the company was valued at $438 million. Jeff Bezos officially became a millionaire, but he was just getting started. While traditional retailers and Wall Street analysts questioned whether Amazon could ever be profitable, Jeff focused on the long term. He pioneered features like customer reviews, one-click shopping, and email order verification. He expanded beyond books into music, videos, electronics, and eventually everything else. But the late 1990s weren't just about growth. They were about surviving. The dot-com bubble was inflating rapidly, with investors pouring money into internet companies with no viable business models. Amazon stock soared to unimaginable heights, reaching $600 per share by late 1999. Analysts like Henry Blodgett predicted Amazon would hit $400, and when it blew past that, people called Jeff a genius. But Jeff knew something others didn't. They hadn't even scratched the surface of what was possible. Then, in March 2000, the bubble burst. The NASDAQ, which had peaked at over 5,000 points, began a catastrophic freefall. Internet companies that had been worth billions disappeared overnight. Pets.com, Webvan, and hundreds of other dot-coms went bankrupt. Amazon stock plummeted more than 90%, falling from $600 to just $6 per share. Bezos' personal wealth evaporated by billions. Critics declared that Amazon was doomed, that online retail was a failed experiment, that Jeff had been foolish to leave Wall Street. But Jeff didn't panic. He had prepared for this. Amazon had raised capital right before the crash, giving them a cushion to weather the storm. While competitors folded, Jeff made brutal decisions, cutting costs, laying off staff, and focusing ruthlessly on efficiency and customer satisfaction. He knew that if Amazon could survive this, they'd emerge stronger than ever. And he was right. By 2001, Amazon posted its first profit. It was modest, just $5 million, but it was proof that the model worked. Jeff doubled down on innovation. In 2005, he launched Amazon Prime, offering unlimited 2-day shipping for an annual fee. Wall Street thought he was crazy. How could giving away free shipping be profitable? But Jeff understood something fundamental about human psychology. Convenience creates loyalty. Prime members spent more, bought more often, and became Amazon's most valuable customers. In 2006, Amazon launched Amazon Web Services, offering cloud computing infrastructure to other companies. It started as a way to monetize Amazon's excess server capacity, but it became one of the most profitable divisions of the company. AWS revolutionized how businesses operate, and today it generates the majority of Amazon's operating profit. Jeff also pursued his childhood dream of space exploration. In 2000, he founded Blue Origin with the vision of making space travel accessible to ordinary people. He invested billions of dollars of his own money, selling Amazon stock to fund the venture. Critics called it a vanity project, but for Jeff, it was about ensuring humanity's future. In 2021, he flew to space aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket, fulfilling a promise he'd made in his high school valedictorian speech decades earlier. Jeff's personal life also evolved. In 2019, after 25 years of marriage and 4 children, he and Mackenzie divorced in what became the most expensive divorce in history. Mackenzie received 25% of their Amazon shares, worth $38 billion, making her one of the richest women in the world. Despite the split, Both maintained mutual respect, and Mackenzie went on to become one of the most generous philanthropists in history, donating billions to charitable causes. Jeff's wealth continued to grow astronomically. At various points, he became the richest person on Earth, with a net worth exceeding $200 billion. As of December 2025, his estimated net worth stands at approximately $239 billion, making him the fourth richest person in the world. His fortune comes primarily from his 8.3% stake in Amazon, but also includes ownership of Blue Origin, The Washington Post, which he purchased in 2013 for $250 million, and extensive real estate holdings worth hundreds of millions. What drove Jeff wasn't just money, it was a philosophy he called Day One. From Amazon's earliest days, he insisted that every day should feel like the first day of a startup. Hungry, urgent, and obsessed with customers. In his 2016 shareholder letter, he wrote about what Day 2 would look like: stasis, followed by irrelevance, then excruciating decline, and finally death. To avoid Day 2, Jeff built Amazon around 4 pillars: obsessive customer focus, resistance to proxies and bureaucracy, embrace of external trends, and high-velocity decision-making. Customer obsession became legendary at Amazon. Jeff famously kept an empty chair in meetings to represent the customer, the most important person in the room. He wrote, "We're not competitor-obsessed, we're customer-obsessed. We start with what the customer needs, and we work backwards." This philosophy led to innovations that competitors thought were impossible. One-click purchasing, personalized recommendations, drone delivery, cashierless stores, and voice-activated shopping through Alexa. Jeff also believed in long-term thinking over short-term profits. While Wall Street demanded quarterly earnings, Jeff reinvested profits back into infrastructure, technology, and new ventures. He was willing to lose money for years if it meant building something that would dominate in the future. This patience paid off massively. Amazon grew from an online bookstore into the everything store, a company that touches nearly every aspect of modern life. In 2021, Jeff stepped down as CEO of Amazon, handing the reins to Andy Jassy, the former head of AWS. Jeff transitioned to executive chairman, giving him time to focus on Blue Origin, philanthropy, and other ventures. In 2020, he launched the Bezos Earth Fund with a $10 billion commitment to fight climate change. He also established the Day One Fund with $2 billion to support homeless families and create preschools in underserved communities. Jeff's legacy extends far beyond his wealth. He transformed how the world shops, pioneered cloud computing, revitalized the space industry, and proved that long-term thinking beats short-term thinking every time. But his journey also carries important lessons about character, ambition, and the price of success. Critics point to Amazon's demanding workplace culture, the treatment of warehouse workers, and Jeff's initial reluctance to embrace large-scale philanthropy compared to other billionaires. These criticisms are valid and part of the complex picture of a man who built an empire by pushing boundaries, sometimes at a human cost. Jeff himself has acknowledged that work-life balance is a myth. He prefers the term work-life harmony, believing that energy and happiness in one area fuels the other. What can we learn from Jeff Bezos' extraordinary journey? First, that your beginnings don't determine your endings. Born to teenage parents, raised by an immigrant stepfather, Jeff's circumstances were modest. But he had parents who believed in him, encouraged his curiosity, and taught him that hard work and innovation could overcome any obstacle. Second, that calculated risk-taking is essential for extraordinary success. Walking away from a 7-figure salary at age 30 to start a company in a garage sounds insane unless you've thought it through with a framework for minimizing regret. Jeff didn't gamble recklessly. He made a thoughtful decision based on what he regret more at 80 years old. Third, that customer obsession is the ultimate competitive advantage. In a world of companies focused on competitors, products, or technology, Jeff's singular focus on delighting customers created a moat that competitors couldn't cross. By starting with customer needs and working backward, Amazon consistently delivered innovations that felt like magic to users. Fourth, that long-term thinking compounds in ways short-term thinking never can. Jeff was willing to endure years of losses, Wall Street skepticism, and public ridicule because he believed in where Amazon was headed. That patience, combined with relentless execution, Turn a garage startup into a trillion-dollar company. Fifth, that resilience matters more than avoiding failure. When Amazon stock dropped 90% during the dot-com crash, Jeff didn't give up. He made tough decisions, stayed focused on the mission, and emerged stronger. Every successful entrepreneur faces moments when everything seems lost. The difference is in how they respond. Finally, that maintaining a day-one mentality, staying hungry, curious, and nimble regardless of size, is how great companies avoid decline. Jeff institutionalized this principle at Amazon through leadership principles, decision-making frameworks, and a culture that rewards experimentation and accepts failure as a necessary part of innovation. Jeff Bezos' story is one of transformation, from a garage in Bellevue to the pinnacle of global business, from packing books by hand to revolutionizing how billions of people shop, consume entertainment, and access computing power, from dreaming of space hotels as a high school valedictorian to actually flying beyond Earth's atmosphere. It's a story that proves that with vision, persistence, and an obsessive focus on what matters, the impossible becomes inevitable. As Jeff himself once said, "I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that, but I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying." That simple truth, that the regret of inaction outweighs the pain of failure, is perhaps the most powerful lesson of all. In a world that often counsels caution and safety, Jeff Bezos showed us that the greatest risk is not taking one. His journey reminds us that true success isn't just about accumulating wealth or building companies. It's about having the courage to dream audaciously, the discipline to work relentlessly, the humility to stay customer-focused, and the wisdom to think beyond quarterly earnings to generational impact. Whether history ultimately judges Jeff as a visionary hero or a complex figure whose achievements came with costs, one thing is undeniable. He changed the world, and he did it by staying true to a simple philosophy. It's always day one.